Buddy, that's me. Ha! And we went to the wrong screen. Rookie moves. See, everything is different and everything's the same, and we're still screwing it up. See, minute one, technically new show, not really. But hi, everybody. That was my hot mic. You're welcome for anyone to listen to that. I'm definitely going to go back and cut that out because I did not know I was hot mic. It's embarrassing. Okay. Hi, this is Indy. This is IndieNewsNow Live, which is the first time I've really said that. We've talked about our new website for quite a while now, IndieNewsNow. We are live over there right now, as a matter of fact, over at IndieNewsNow.com. Let me refresh the site real quick, and then I want to put that up so you see it. There it is. Boom. Okay, this is the website that I'm talking about. We built this site, God, over a year ago, and it just aggregates and pulls independent media all day long, every day. But in addition to that, we also host the news there. So I just figured it makes sense because all of the articles that we pull for, how do we miss that, quote unquote, for the show that we've been doing for the last, 4 years have come from a site like this. And since this site has been built, all of the articles pretty much that we've covered on shows at INN have come from Indie News Now. So it makes more sense to me to name the show Indie News Now Live because it showcases the website, it shows that we're live there, and it's a nice tie-in to everything else. So welcome again to Indie News Now Live. I'm really excited about this. Been talking it over with the family quite a bit lately, and we needed to make a couple of changes. We are going to still continue to do boats on Sunday night. It's very important to me that we continue to do boats. Boats is an important show for me to be able to mind bleach and clear my head after a week of crazy news. So we're going to move the news over to Tuesday night. I'm going to do it myself at 10 o'clock while Reef and Colin are curating INN News, which will still be live tomorrow night. Same thing. And I want to put up the new schedule and the new lineup for INN. So a couple of housekeeping things, then we'll get to the news, I promise. But like I said, How Do We Miss That is now Indie News Now Live, and we'll be live on Tuesday nights at 10. All right, boats will be moving to 11 o'clock Eastern on Sunday nights. And then the other thing that we're going to do is on Thursday nights, I'm just going to make it more official that we're going to rotate through a series of shows on Thursday nights. So we're going to get a mix of INN one-on-ones, which you've been getting already. A mix of Nobody Wants to Work Anymore. We're going to continue to dust that off the shelf and probably do that once a month. We'll get an American Tradition once a month. And I would like to start doing an Indies Tech Tips show once a month to cover more of the tools that I use on a daily basis, be it from Canva to Substack to DaVinci to OBS and all the different programs that I use to actually make this stuff happen. I want to share some of that with everyone, and I think that that would be interesting, A, for live streamers, bring us in a little bit of a new audience, but also to kind of let you guys behind the scenes a little bit and see how we create the stuff that we do. Nothing else really changes. Angel in the Afternoon, Pro Wrestling Talk, still going to be Friday and Saturday. We're still going to simulcast AM Wake Up on weekdays and the Independent Review on Friday, where I usually join in. Okay, and INN News will continue to be Wednesdays at 9 with Reef and Colin. So, that being said, as a couple of friends of ours like to say, we do still want to keep the news free, and I still have the Wall of Fame slide, and I appreciate everybody hooking us up over there if possible. It's been a little slow the last couple of weeks, but Ralph Mejia, I know we did get one new person that $5 on Cash App out of nowhere. Thank you so much. That means a lot. It really does, especially when I'm standing with my family in Florida last week on vacation, and all of a sudden I got a Cash App alert. There's $5. Thank you. Really, that's wow. It was surprising and great and appreciated. And tried to take a week off. I'm sure none of you even noticed because there's so much content going out through the network all week anyway. But did try to get away for a little bit, and I'm glad to be back and kind of reinvigorated a little bit, and had this epiphany about how Do We Miss That has been around for a long time. We never even got a chance to give it a name as a show, is the real truth. It just kind of started as its own show, and then we gave it a name 3 weeks in. So this is really the first time that it's had its own like tie-in to something that makes sense. All right. Well, so we're a couple minutes in. Just want to say hi to Dissent and Bloom. Good to see you. Sean the Accord Lord Miller, thank you for all you do and for all your support, man. And thank you to everybody, by the way, for the Justice for Aspen live stream, and so much for supporting and sharing and everything that you were doing there. And of course, donating to the GoFundMe. That was huge. And we're going to continue to need that. So thank you to everybody that did that. That was a massive lift last month. And it was good to get a week off after spending all the time to produce that and edit it and make all the things together. Thank you, Oz the Boomer. Good to see you, brother. Wow. Okay. $5 from Oz. Thank you. Why didn't the thing go off? I don't know, but it should have. All right, let's get going. I have got some stories. Now, here's the crazy thing. I started going over this, and I had a couple of stories that I had thrown into a folder that I wanted to look at. And I'm reading this thing, and I'm like, you know, this is a pretty crazy article. But at the same time, I guess we did this last time, and I don't even remember it because I guess my brain was so fried and tied up in Justice for Aspen stuff at the moment that covering this in the lightning round of the last episode, I want to go over it again because I think a lot of people probably missed it, and I definitely did, even though I actually read it once, which is that there was an actual joint congressional investigation that was launched in response specifically to ProPublica's revelations about detained Americans. Okay, 170 plus Americans have been arrested and detained by ICE. Most of them are released without charges, which is even worse. All right. So here we've got senators, House members, even a mayor, I think it was Brandon Johnson, expressed outrage and demanded accountability after our investigation detailed how at least 170 citizens have been held by immigration agents this year. The last I knew, that was illegal. But I guess nothing is illegal at this point, especially if they hold you without charges. They can legally, I guess, detain you and hold you. But, man, it's problematic. And, of course, almost all of them are Latino. Go figure. So we've got a racist Customs, Border Patrol, ICE. Okay, this was from October 21st. So this was already a couple of weeks old. And, of course, this was in the middle of the shutdown. So nothing was really going on because these guys were barely showing up to work to begin with, and then not even voting until today to sell us out and reopen the government and give us nothing in return. The Democrats in the House and Senate announced plans for a wide-ranging investigation into immigration agents' detention of citizens after a ProPublica story found that more than 170 Americans have been held by immigration officials this year. Minority leaders of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee and the Senate's Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations said that the joint investigation into the detention of U.S. citizens and other allegations of misconduct by immigration agents would include a hearing in L.A. Now, the only thing I do see here is that this is being run by Democrats, which means that this is going to be highly partisan, and the people who are in charge aren't even really going to be involved. So this is, okay, this is like window dressing in a way to kind of expose it, but accomplish nothing. All right, over 170 citizens have been arrested. Why? Because they look like me, because they're of Latino origin, or because they're suspected to not be a U.S. citizen, or because they are suspected of crimes that they have not committed. All right, that's Robert Garcia, and Karen Bass. We all know Karen Bass is problematic. She's running for her life effectively politically right now because of what happened with the wildfires earlier this year, and her taking her jaunt, I think it was to Uganda, while that thing was happening. Garcia said the investigators are demanding all records and documents showing how U.S. citizens are treated by immigration officials in L.A. and around the country. I think we know the answer to that already. An investigation isn't going to reveal any more than we know already. We want to understand what they're doing in our neighborhoods, how it's being funded. You're funding it, you idiots. You gave ICE all that fucking money the last couple of years. What do you mean? Our investigation found that at least 50 citizens have been detained based on questions about their citizenship as of October 5th. They were almost all Latino. What a surprise. Roughly 130 others have been detained after raids or protests on allegations of assaulting officers or interfering with arrests. Many of those cases have wilted under scrutiny. What's happening, honestly, is that a lot of people are chasing after ICE agents in these cities and honking their horns after them to let people know that ICE agents are coming into their city and into their neighborhood and to warn them. And ICE doesn't like that because that means fewer arrests for ICE. And we know from Stephen Miller's thing months ago, they have a 3,000 arrest per day quota nationwide. ProPublica says, we found Americans have been dragged, tackled, beaten, tased, and shot by immigration agents. American citizens. At least 24 citizens have reported being held for at least a day without access to a phone or a lawyer. They don't give a shit. This is modern day Gestapo stuff. Bass and Garcia don't care about them, but they said the mistreatment of citizens has come amid the arrests of immigrants reporting for check-ins and immigration court. We've seen this. We've reported on it. And the administration's repeated blocking of congressional attempts to visit and conduct oversight in federal detention facilities like the one in LA and the one in Newark and the one in Florida. They've tried to get into these places often, and they're told they don't have jurisdiction and they're not allowed to go. Quote, it's important that we say today what's happening to undocumented residents is also happening to U.S. citizens, which means that this can happen to anyone, to all of us at any period of time. Yes, Karen, that's correct, Karen. Former Congresswoman Karen, by the way. If she was sitting in Congress, she'd have been one of those people that was voting no, by the way, to reopen the government. Their article also has prompted members of Congress to write to DHS, which they'll get a strongly worded letter. In one letter sent to Kristi Noem, Garcia and Senator Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut said citizens in cities like LA have borne the brunt of the administration's aggressive immigration enforcement. Not only cities, but specifically blue cities. And that was something that even my father last week when I was down in Florida with him pointed out, is that notice that the top crime cities are not where they're sending the ICE. They're sending it into the blue cities. This is completely punitive. Totally agree. Quote, the impact of these arrests has not been evenly distributed across the country, and cities like Chicago, Portland, D.C., and L.A. have been targeted. Troublingly, the pattern of U.S. citizen arrests coincides with an alarming increase in racial profiling, particularly of Latinos, which has been well documented in L.A. Homeland Security has not replied to previous letters. What a shock. Why should they? There's no consequences for not replying. There's been no congressional subpoena. There's been nothing. Asked about the concerns from elected leaders, DHS spokesperson rejected claims that immigration agents have been engaging in racial profiling. Here comes the gaslight. Ready? She said in a statement to ProPublica that a temporary ruling by the Supreme Court in September had vindicated the administration, whether Mayor Bass or Rep. Garcia liked it or not. Really? DHS enforces political immigration law without fear, favor, or prejudice. We'll hear all about that in a few minutes. Claims by the media, agitators, and sanctuary politicians like Mayor Bass and Rep. Garcia that ICE is targeting U.S. citizens, making unconstitutional arrests, and trampling on civil liberties are false. That's why they just took Homeland Security away from the people that were running it and handed it to Border Patrol, right? We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. That slid by most people without them knowing about it at all. White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson told ProPublica in an email that unhinged rhetoric from activists and Democrat politicians was responsible for an increase in assaults on ICE officers. Not ICE officers actually assaulting citizens, but the opposite. And then, of course, you've got Chief Nazi himself, Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. He derides Karen Bass's press conferences Abject lies. Like one of the biggest liars in the country. Gaslighting Nazi. Sure. Admit it. Violent leftists have been arrested and charged with illegally obstructing federal law enforcement, a felony. Dude, where are your pearls? Look at that pearl clutching. Let that sink in. Open borders, Democrats. Oh my God. Have incited leftists to violently attack ICE. I swear I'm waiting for her to fucking burst into tears. What a pussy. Of the cases we tracked through October 5th, we found again nearly 50 instances where charges have never been filed or the cases were dismissed. Well, if they committed a crime, I would guess that you would have found something to charge them with, wouldn't you? Our count found at least 8 citizens have pleaded guilty, mostly to misdemeanors, including for failing to follow orders. Others are still facing charges for more serious accusations, including for allegedly ramming an agent's car. The driver pleaded not guilty, and the footage that we saw was the exact opposite. The ICE agent hit them and then dragged them out of their own car. One account did not count citizens arrested later, all right, after some sort of judicial process, or those detained by local law enforcement or the National Guard. That also is a bunch of people. That included cases of some people charged with serious crimes like throwing rocks, like the guy in LA, or tossing a flare to start a fire. But those are like anecdotal, single one-off incidents. That's not happening in every city. People aren't tossing flares at Homeland Security agents everywhere. That's nonsense. Again, they're using one-off things to justify the systemic nonsense that's happening. Okay, this is bullshit. So not only that, and I know that, so that's Nicole Foy over at ProPublica. By the way, ProPublica won the Pulitzer Prize for Outstanding Independent Investigative Journalism this year. Good on them. But I also wanted to go to Indie Media Award honoree Left Voice, and I have a sound for that. Okay, now, again, I know that our friend Kit over at Hardlands Media covered this earlier in the week, and I wasn't really around this week to see this, but when I saw the video, I'm like, oh my God, we've got to talk about this. ICE agents detain a daycare teacher in Chicago. And again, I'm guessing some of you probably saw this, but I like this article from M. Carlstad and Gwen Lee over again at Left Voice. On Wednesday morning in Chicago, a nightmare scenario played out when ICE agents arrived at Rayito de Sol Spanish Immersion Early Learning Center in North Center neighborhood and ripped a daycare teacher from her workplace in front of parents and their children. Why? Parents who arrived around the same time to drop their kids off witnessed and filmed much of the abduction. The upsetting footage shows 2 ICE agents in masks, of course, and police vests taking the teacher by force out of the school building as she struggles, visibly terrified. Her screams are audible from within the building as they force her out the door and handcuff her against a gray sedan. According to Chicago Alderman Matt Martin, who viewed security camera footage from the daycare, the ICE agents also entered and searched the daycare building with guns, while teachers and young students were present. That's illegal. According to parents, the teacher normally works in an infant classroom. In some video footage, the teacher can be heard telling the ICE agents in Spanish that she has papers. Indeed, she's an asylum seeker with a valid work permit. Her coworkers and community members describe the attack as horrifying, surreal, and nightmarish. Parents and children alike were left in shock and tears. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson condemned the abduction and criticized ICE's use of force against this teacher and other immigrants and protesters in Chicago. He's right to do so, but a sharp contradiction lies behind his words, because as mayor, he's leader of a police department that works in parallel with ICE to terrorize people of color in Chicago and repress protests. Johnson, of course, used to be a teacher himself and a member of the Chicago Teachers Union. a union which now must take up the fight to demand this teacher's release and to defend all educators as well as students from ICE. Fuck ICE. As of Thursday, the teacher was believed to be held at the Broadview ICE detention facility, which, by the way, is one of the worst in the country, raising concerns for her safety among the daycare's community. Again, the site has been described as dire and disgusting due to poor sanitation, and detainees are regularly denied access to food and medical care. Organizers, parents, and other Chicagoans protested there on Thursday and were denied access to speak with the teacher. She might not even be there. They might have moved her to Louisiana for all we know at this point. They move people around the country from facility to facility without telling anybody, and they're disappearing people, and that's part of the plan. Since Trump's inauguration, ICE agents have abducted multiple students here in New York City and have surveilled, terrorized, and invaded other cities even more aggressively. All over the country, there are instances of agents in unmarked vehicles wearing civilian clothes with faces covered, separating children from their parents, or beating and arresting people, sometimes citizens, who happen to look like they could be immigrants, and their skin is usually brown. The ongoing government shutdown adds a new level of absurdity to the horror of such ICE attacks. While funding for SNAP benefits sits frozen and blocked from people's EBT cards, causing families to go hungry, ICE agents are still being paid to terrorize them at work and school. Hey, thanks. Appreciate that, guys. In many cases like LA and a recent an ICE arrest in Detroit, these attacks have been met with fierce and organized resistance by communities. When masked ICE agents targeted a group of men in Detroit, members of the Detroit People's Assembly intervened to try to bring the men to safety after the agents abducted one of the men by smashing a car window and dragging him out of it through the broken fucking glass. In another instance, directly involving educators, CTU teachers formed sanctuary teams this year to monitor any potential threats against undocumented students. This comes after many years of fighting for immigrant defense by CTU workers. Students and teachers have the right to free, safe, and accessible learning communities, regardless of their immigration status. This has been ruled on by the Supreme fucking Court. They don't care. Because of this, it's essential that we defend them from these racist attacks by ICE, which Trump is transforming into his own personal police force. Additionally, the fact that Democrats and Republicans are paying ICE to continue its racist rampages while 42 million people lost SNAP benefits is a reminder that we can't count on capitalist politicians nor their biased court system to defend our immigrant coworkers and students. Still, we know from the No Kings marches of the summer and fall, attended by millions, useless, and the recent rejection of Trump's politics in the 2025 elections, yay, that people are prepared and energized to fight back, and perhaps in more powerful ways than the ballot box. I sure hope so, because that didn't do very much. Because of attacks like the one on Wednesday, teachers are on the front lines of this fight and may have already taken it up. This is evident from the CTU's sanctuary teams, the protests led in recent years by the United Teachers of LA, and the ongoing education worker organizing happening in New York City. As unionized teachers have said many times, their working conditions are their students' learning conditions. Organizing to defend our immigrant coworkers directly from our workplaces is essential. And our unions can and must play a leading role in organizing that fight back. I wouldn't count on them, though. I think that they need to organize themselves on top of that. I did want to somewhere. Here's the video footage. Ooh, I'm not going to do that, guys. I'm not going to do that. Sorry. I'm not going to do that. Plus, it's CBS anyway. So, we see what ICE is doing, right? Well, it wasn't just in Chicago either. All right, here's another one in Oregon. ICE took a green card holder leaving for work just weeks after his baby's birth. Because the punishment is the process, and it's the whole point. Okay, it's so disgusting. Let me make this a little bigger. Again, dissentinbloom.substack.com. Check it out. He was featured also on the Justice for Aspen live stream. If you did not see that, by all means, check it out. As she said, picture this. Sarah had just given birth 3 weeks ago. I remember when my kid was 3 weeks old. All right. Her body still healing, swollen, eyes heavy from the sleeplessness that comes with a newborn's cries. This was their third boy, and though her hands were going to be full, her heart had never felt fuller. Aw. It was fall in Oregon. The red and orange and yellow leaves fell from outside, very descriptive. Children were preparing for Halloween, and her apartment smelled of coffee and milk and baby lotion and baby formula, probably. All right. Her husband, lovingly called Yomi, was heading back to work today. All right. He didn't want to leave her side yet, not while she was still sore, still between the beauty of their new child and the ache of recovery. But the rent was due in a few days, and the bills don't pause for love or birth. And in America, the landlord and the light company don't care if you just brought life into the world, and apparently neither does ICE, because on October 26th, Abayomi Daramola was taken from his wife and children, taken by masked men as he left for work that day. Fucking gross. See, when Yomi left, it was just another morning. Two rambunctious little boys excited for their new brother. The new baby's soft breath on her chest, that unsaid feeling that everything was going to be okay, but by afternoon, everything that they built, 10 years of home, family, safety, collapsed into space between a knock at the door and a click of handcuffs. During the arrest, Sarah said one of the agents barely looked at her. He just muttered that her husband was being taken. There was no explanation, no mercy, and then they were gone. He didn't even have a chance to show them that he was legal. They didn't seem to care either way because, again, they have a 3,000 arrests per day quota. So even if they arrest them, they can always just let him go. But they met their quota, and they're not going to get in trouble for the day. Yomi had lived here for 10 years. He came from Nigeria, built a life, earned his green card, followed every rule this country told him would keep him safe. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't illegal. He belonged here. ICE coming for their family was likely the last thing on their mind. I'm sure seeing on the news, it's messing him up, and he's wondering, are they going to come for me? And they did. Yet in that moment, none of it mattered. Sarah left standing in the doorway, holding their baby, watching the only world she knew collapse. A father taken before his newborn would even recognize his face or know that this ever happened. And taken from two little boys who had never known life without their daddy. I mean, again, I got 3 little kids. This kills me. So where is Yomi now? Well, on November 3rd, an advocate posted an update to the family's GoFundMe. In the span of just 3 days, remember I talked about how they moved that teacher? He was moved between 4 different detention centers. Every transfer meant new chains on his wrists and ankles, new officers, new walls that smelled of bleach and metal. He reported being shackled the entire time. Wrists sore where the metal rubbed against his skin. His legs stiff from sitting in the same position for hours. What did he do? They wouldn't let him shower. They wouldn't even let him use a bathroom. For more than 72 hours, he sat in chains, sweating, aching, humiliated. Must have been sitting in his own piss and shit. The air was thick and sour. His clothes clung to him. Every mile of that journey stripped away another layer of his dignity, again, which was the point. He tried not to think about home. That's what tries to break them. About Sarah, the baby, the boys, because the thought of them made the walls feel smaller, I can imagine. This was a man who'd done everything right, who followed every rule, and yet here he was, treated like something less than human. That's the baby. But there's beauty in the darkest of times. And in the days since Yomi's arrest, the community has rallied around Sarah. Great. Thousands of dollars have been donated to her GoFundMe, enough for her to pay the rent and secure a short period of postpartum doula care to help her through long sleepless nights without her kids. Yeah, great. Thanks for that. It's great, but that she doesn't have to do that alone. But that small consolation. For now, she and the kids have a place to stay, a little stability, and in the chaos that ICE left behind, which again, I think they want people to end up homeless out of this, evicted, and living in their car on the streets or who knows where. They're fighting to free him, to get this man back to his family. Why? Here's the part that hurts to write. By early November, the average person in ICE detention was being held for roughly 7 weeks. How much is that costing us as a society, on top of the moral cost, but just the fucking financial cost? But people who fight their cases like Yomi is, they are often locked up far longer, sometimes many months or even a year or more. The people who get out earlier are the ones who self-deport to get away from the horrible conditions inside these detention centers. Again, the punishment is the point, which is the goal. Kristi Noem has said on record, the dog murderer, several times that the goal is to make ICE detention so cruel, so inhumane, and so torturous that immigrants would rather just go back to the places where they risk life and limb than stay and be abused. How is she not behind bars right now? But he is, because he's from Nigeria, and despite being a permanent resident with a green card, he's still going to miss the small irreplaceable things that mark a baby's second month of life. These are the ordinary miracles that teach a child's safety and bonding, and they're happening without him. Again, by intent. Look at what happened to Mahmoud Khalil. And if this drags on, as it so often does, his baby could grow up without knowing his voice, his scent, his touch. When he finally walks through the door, he won't be daddy. He'll be a stranger with familiar eyes, trying to bond with a child who's already learned the world without him. Motherfucker. The damage doesn't stop with the baby. Research is blunt about what happens to kids when a parent is detained or deported. Anxiety, depression, aggression, and even suicidal thoughts climb in children and teens who experience a parent's arrest or disappearance. The longer the separation, the worse the outcomes. Sarah's older boys are all under 10. They need routine, touch, reassurance, and a parent who's not up all night calculating rent and legal bills and how to answer the question, when's daddy coming home? They want a two-parent family, and they just broke up a two-parent family. How Christian is that? For a guy who's here fucking legally. And Yomi won't leave, of course, this untouched. Prolonged detention is consistently linked to anxiety, depression, and PTSD in adults. Look what they did to Aspen in 15 fucking days in Georgia, an American citizen. Symptoms that persist after release. And this study is from before they upped the cruelty. Add in the documented conditions of ICE custody, like the transfers and isolation, heat risks in southern facilities, and basic indignities of being denied showers or bathrooms. You have the blueprint for lifelong trauma, again, which is their point. This is the math that Sarah is forced to do while she feeds her baby and bargains with landlords. Every extra day in detention is not just a court date on the docket. It's a missed smile, a stalled bond, a frightened child, and a father pushed deeper into harm. The fight goes on because it has to. It should not have to at all. This is costing them time, money, years of their life and their savings and their future. Everything this guy had worked for has now got to be blown on this. That's the true cruelty of family separation. Again, it's not just the taking, but the time that can never be returned. The people that can never truly be returned. At the end of the day, they can never truly return to who they were before this. How can they ever feel safe in the United States again? But the love will always be there, and love is stronger than hate at the end of the day. We just have to fight. Yes. But we also have to prosecute these motherfuckers. They have to pay. ICE separates families. Yeah, we know that. As of June, the Brennan Center for Justice, I'm not a fan of them at all, reported over 57,000 people held in ICE detention centers. That is a 51% increase from the year before. So don't tell me how Joe Biden was locking people up now. This is an unprecedented record level of shit. These facilities are operating at over 45% over capacity. Well, we got to build more facilities now, right? No, stop arresting them, motherfuckers. How many of those 57,000 were mothers or fathers? The majority. How many children came home from school to empty houses and backpacks still slung over their shoulders, wondering where their parents went? More than dozens. More than dozens. How many were left crying in the backseat of a car after ICE took their mom or dad during a traffic stop? Too fucking many. According to the American Immigration Council, more than 16.7 million children in the U.S. live with at least one undocumented family member, meaning the scale of risk for separation is huge. Of course, the Millers of the world would say, why are there 16.7 million children living with undocumented family members? There you go. He also knows this, which is why he shared similar statistics and a cryptic message on social media the night Mamdani, an immigrant, won the mayoral election in New York City, a threat wrapped in numbers. And that's not an exaggeration, it's the reality. And it's getting worse. ICE has been documented leaving children alone in cars, on the side of the road, and in parking lots after detaining their parents. And then what they do is they charge the parents with child abandonment and child endangerment, as if it's their fault. In Oxnard, California, 2 young children were found crying inside a truck after their father was taken at a gas station. In Massachusetts, a 12-year-old boy was left wandering the street after ICE arrested the adult he was with. These are not isolated incidents. They're routine acts of cruelty dressed up as enforcement. Children have started documenting it themselves. Children! On TikTok, videos circulate of kids coming home from school to empty houses, their parents' belongings scattered where they left them that morning. One girl only learned that her mother had been taken when she saw a video filmed by a bystander showing agents forcing her into their vehicle as she walked to the grocery store. This is not a hypothetical future or a dystopian warning. It's a growing reality unfolding in neighborhoods across America. Children are being stranded, terrified, and forced to grow up in the aftermath of government-sanctioned disappearances. This is fascism. People are putting up posters to show where ICE kidnapped someone because these families only find out their loved ones are gone when they never come home. And while politicians on both sides of the government gave ICE billions for border security, families like Sarah's are being torn apart using these dollars, our tax dollars, one household at a time. Like I said to Brandon Johnson, you motherfuckers funded this. So what can we do? This story is heavy because it has to be. It's a mirror held up to a country that keeps pretending, trying not to see. It may feel draining and dark and hopeless, but that exhaustion is a privilege that Sarah and Yomi and Mahmoud Khalil and Ramesia Ozturk and so many people don't have. Yomi doesn't get to give up. He's chained in a cell hundreds of miles from home. Still not charged with a crime, I'm guessing. Sarah doesn't get to look away. She's feeding a newborn with one arm and fighting for her husband with the other. The least we can do is stand beside them, because every time we stop paying attention, another family disappears. By the way, same thing with Gaza. Every time we lose hope, ICE wins. We don't get to turn our backs. Not when love like theirs is still fighting to survive inside the machine built to destroy it. You can donate to Sarah's GoFundMe. And that's linked here. All right. And yet another fucking GoFundMe. Because we don't have enough of those already. I'm going to go through a whole section of that later. You can search online to find and donate to immigrant rights groups in your own community. You can donate to the ACLU who's fighting. You can share this story so other people know. Restack it here on Substack. Share it on social media for sure. And if you can't give money, give time. The only way we get out of this is together. We can't sit around and wait for someone else to fix it. There's always something you can do. Get creative. The goal is simple. Raise awareness, raise funds, and stop this before more children are traumatized and more fathers like Yomi are taken. And if you want to keep up with stories like this, subscribe to Descent in Bloom. Substack.com. Okay, she covers cases like Sarah and Yomi's from all over the country. She holds the Trump admin and ICE and Noam and Miller accountable. Okay, she writes about the human side and statistics behind it and keep doing it, and also election integrity. And the fact that our elections are completely captured, owned, and stolen because the machines are being certified in a black box, and nobody wants to pay attention to that. They would rather just stick their head in the sand and believe that everything is on the up and up. There's Ko-fi. She's got Ko-fi. She's got a monthly subscription that you can subscribe there. All right, if you have the means, that support makes a difference. And it makes a difference over here, too. Support independent media. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Right? Great article. Good stuff. But I mentioned earlier, this happened last week, and I think a lot of people missed it. Borderland Talk with Jen Budd. Jen used to be a CBP agent who quit and blew the whistle on what she saw. And what she saw was racist chuds everywhere. And we've covered a couple of her articles in the past and a couple of her notes from Substack. She says, Border Patrol achieves its goal of becoming the national police force. And now here's what to expect. What? She said that in 2021, she wrote a piece titled Border Patrol's Dream. Thank you. Border Patrol's dream of becoming a national police force is becoming a reality. Of all the law enforcement agencies in the federal government, this is the most dangerous one to unleash on the country. The Border Patrol questionably asserts the power to stop anyone, regardless of status, enter into anyone's private property, check proof of citizenship, and routinely execute searches without warrants as required by the Fourth Amendment. No other federal agency presumes to have these powers. She says she was called an idiot by the Border Patrol Union, a fearmonger by mainstream media, a disgruntled employee by both the left and the right. But if you were an ex-Border Patrol agent or studied the agency for decades as she has, you would know the history as she wrote in that piece. And she writes, quote, "This was a plan designed and pushed by former Border Patrol Chief David Aguilar to inject CBP into every major national event. That's exactly what the Border Patrol has been doing with the deployment of BORTAC, Border Patrol SWAT-like team, patrolling sanctuary cities and controlling SWAT-like raids on immigrant facilities across the country. Because the Border Patrol claims jurisdiction within 100 miles of all land and border waters, which includes over 2/3 of the population in the United States, everybody's safety is now at risk." She says, "Don't say I didn't warn you." She says, let me make this a little bigger. "I was not in the least bit surprised to see the Associated Press report 2 days ago that Border Patrol would be taking over ICE. The agency had already infiltrated its parent agency, CBP, after Trump took office the second time by placing former Border Patrol Chief Rodney Scott as commissioner. Scott has zero experience as a CBP officer, no college degree in management of such a large agency dealing in trade, asylum processing, or the many other jobs required by CBP at our ports of entry. However, as a chief in the Border Patrol, Scott is heavily experienced in bringing in the violence. He knows extensively how to cover up the criminality of his agents. How convenient." In May of 2010, after his agents beat to death a man for demanding medical treatment for an injury caused by an agent, Scott's secret and illegal cover-up team, known as the San Diego Critical Incident Investigative Team, interfered with the San Diego Police Department's homicide investigation of Anastasio Hernandez Rojas. Under Scott's supervision, agents obstructed justice by destroying the video evidence, allowing agents to leave the scene, failing to identify witnesses to the incident, destroying other physical evidence such as taser prongs and the victim's clothing, using an immigration civil subpoena to obtain the medical report, which is not legal, and then refusing to turn that report over to San Diego PD homicide investigators. And yet, no agent was ever held accountable for Anastasio's death. On May 1st, 2025, nearly 15 years after Anastasio was killed, the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights found that, quote, although Mr. Hernandez was taken to the hospital on May 28th at 9:48 p.m., station officials informed the appropriate authorities on May 29th at 2:12. More than 4 hours later, the San Diego Police Department was notified at 12, and the processing of the Whiskey 2 area began at 1:52 p.m. That sounds like a lot of time. Thus, more than 16 hours had passed since the occurrence of the events, and the investigation team went to the crime scene to gather information without any record in the file that the area had been previously secured in order to safeguard the evidence and prevent contamination, because it hadn't. On the contrary, what is established is that prior to this, Border Patrol's Critical Incident Investigation Team arrived at the scene. In this regard, the Commission has 4 observations to make. 1, it's not clear what legal basis could justify the intervention of this body in the investigation and the excessive use of force resulting in the death of a person. Why are they there? Second, there's no basis in the national legal framework to support this priority access to the crime scene, and no other evidence, such as his medical records. Why are they getting access to that? Third, the state hasn't demonstrated compliance by this body with the aforementioned requirements. They haven't turned anything over. And finally, it's highlighted with concern, strongly worded letter, that the CIIT refrained from forwarding the collected information to the San Diego Police Department, which could represent an obstacle to the investigation whose jurisdiction is not in dispute. While you will not find much reporting on this astounding IHCR report in American media, the U.S. is a participating partner within the Commission and often uses it to condemn other countries for their human rights abuses. How convenient. Here's another one on September 28, 2012. Chief Scott struck again with another cover-up. This time, his illegal cover-up team was unavailable. Fortunately for him, orders were given for the San Diego Sector Intelligence Unit to round up witnesses. Scott himself rushed to the scene in Chula Vista, where one of his agents, in plain clothes without identification visible, shot a U.S. citizen and a mother of 5. Valeria Taquiquin was killed instantly when Border Patrol agent Justin Tackett unloaded 10 bullets into her upper body as she sat in a car. She was unarmed and was trying to get away from this unknown man who continually placed himself in front of her car to block her. Chief Scott stood before cameras immediately after the killing and before any investigation had commenced to claim she had tried to run Agent Tackett over. Yet witnesses came forward and stated Tackett was firing from a standing position, and other agents placed witnesses in their cars to prevent them from speaking with Chula Vista Police Department investigators. Go figure. After the incident, Chief Scott and Border Patrol press information officers leaked out as much investigative information as they could find about Valeria's past, because that's what they do, smear the victim. But when 10 local news discovered Agent Tackett's long history of abuse and violating people's rights that extended all the way back to his days working for the Imperial County Sheriff's Office as a deputy, Border Patrol suddenly stopped talking. They didn't want to influence the case. How convenient. Still, the CIIT and intelligence unit did their job, and Agent Tackett was transferred to Tucson sector to continue wearing the green uniform, and again, no one was held accountable. Rodney Scott, who is again now taking over ICE, embodies the culture of U.S. Border Patrol. The agents selected to take over ICE, whomever they are, do as well. One can't rise to these ranks without being willing to cover up the crimes of Border Patrol agents. Using the cover-up teams that are now housed under CBP's Office of Professional Responsibility, the OPR, and knowing to call them in first before the real use of force investigators arrive is standard operating procedure within the agency. In over 101 years, no Border Patrol agent has successfully been prosecuted for killing a person while on duty. That's disgusting. What Americans are witnessing in their neighborhoods is the Border Patrolification of the immigration agencies. On the southern border, every single night, in multiple sectors, agents perform dangerous pursuits and illegal PIT maneuvers, ramming cars they suspect may have undocumented persons. They spike vehicles driving at high speeds, even though training says it can cause fatal rollovers. Again, that's their point. They bust out windows of cars without ever asking anyone's citizenship and then shoot the drivers as they run alongside the car. They chase them into known dangerous corners, into rivers, canals, and other innocent cars just coming home from work. All for a crime of crossing the border without inspection, which is a misdemeanor. All of this is just punitive. And it's attacking people that are brown. That usually we fucking did something to their hometown, their home country, that caused them to need to come here. Trump trusts the Border Patrol, and they love him. Their union was responsible for delivering his message of open borders, which there never have been, and escorting right-wing media to every apprehension they could find prior to Trump taking office a second time. Even for creating some fake crossings, and there's a link to that. Yes, they manufacture crossings that they then can show that they're busting, but this is all theater. This was all an attempt to make Americans believe there was a migrant invasion occurring, when in reality it was caused by Trump and the Border Patrol's own policies of shuttering the legal asylum system. Remember, they closed the borders the last time Trump was president. Closing legal avenues forces people to cross illegally every time. It was not an invasion, but CBP refusing to process people. They were keeping hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of people in Mexico. People who were genuinely seeking asylum the legal way. But he ended asylum effectively. Wouldn't grant it. So she says here, again, this is Jen Budd, Border Patrol. All right, Borderland Talk with Jen Budd. Jen Budd, JENNBUDDs.substack.com. It's important to understand the cultural differences between ICE, CBP, and the Border Patrol. ICE normally targets those with criminal warrants and records, or at least in the past. They're investigators and are supposed to build cases with probable cause and evidence for judges to consider if someone should be deported. They are by no means honorable, but that is their intended purpose. They're also knowing that judges are basically doing whatever they are suggesting anyway and aren't really asking hard questions, or they're just attacking the judges. When it comes to immigration enforcement, CBP processes asylum seekers and other varieties of people seeking legal entry in the U.S. It is a much more controlled environment at the ports of entry, and one in which the officers have an immense amount of authority over those seeking entry. Border Patrol is looked down upon by both ICE and CBP as the thugs of immigration, which is funny. She said, in my day, we were called the butthole of the federal service. The agency is known for hiring people with criminal records, including child sexual assault, DUIs, cops in the process of being removed from other agencies, those with cartel ties, and even undocumented applicants, which is hilarious. And all of those, by the way, she has links and receipts to. So I'm not just saying that. Border Patrol is the agency doing the violent ripping of children from their parents. The dangerous high-speed chases that not only harm migrants, but kill and forever disable many innocent Americans. The deterrence policies where we purposefully push migrants not allowed to do it the legal way out to the most lethal terrain to cross, fully aware that they'll likely die or suffer severe amounts of physical and emotional trauma. Again, that's their point. If you're going to do it, you're going to pay the price. The Border Patrol, different from CBP, is the law enforcement of the Wild West. It's where politicians don't care what we do because migrants can't vote, nor do they donate to political campaigns, which makes them the perfect scapegoats. It's where agents can sexually abuse their own children and be working for a Border Patrol contractor before they're even sentenced to lifetime probation. Yeah, that happened. It's where they can be caught on video committing the exact same allegations made against them, and then they're acquitted. It's where Rodney Scott can order the tear gassing of women and children seeking asylum as they stand in Mexico without repercussions, just for the hell of it. It's where agents know that their chiefs will ensure the cover-up teams will botch the evidence, identification and collection so badly that juries can't convict them when they reach into Mexico and put 10 bullets in the back of a child as he walks down the street. Everything you are seeing in your cities and neighborhoods has occurred down here on the southern border for generations. The beatings, the tasings, the less than lethal ammunition assaults, ramming, spiking, PIT maneuvers, guns in your face. That's the Border Patrol Jen knows and remembers well. It's done in the most desolate of places, on the spider webs of dirt roads, on the little two-lane highways that are mostly empty. It's what she wrote about extensively in her memoir. If she were a high-ranking ICE or CBP officer, she would see this as a hostile takeover. She would be offended that the administration trusts Border Patrol agents more than it trusts them. The Border Patrol has just reached their goal as the national police force. With their management and control of ICE and CBP, they not only control in between the ports, they now control the ports themselves, the deportations, and CBP's vast surveillance of Americans, by the way. They're Trump's private and secret police. They answer to no one. Trump can trust the Border Patrol will violate Americans' constitutional rights because they've always done so. And she closes by saying, "Buckle up, buttercups. The violence has just begun." Again, not really a pleasant article here. Thank you to everyone who's here hanging out. Good to see you all at Indie News Now Live. Yes, we are now Indie News Now Live. How do we miss that? Is being put out to pasture, or evolving actually, because we have our news website and we're tying the name into the news website. So fuck ICE, man. Holy crap. I mean, did you know that about this whole CBP, ICE, Border Patrol, the difference between them? I certainly did not. It's really interesting to see. Old man Barker, good to see you, sir. Nice to see you, brother. Thank you for the $5 or whoever did the Ko-fi. I got to find the Ko-fi. It already flew so far out. Number 6, good to see you, brother, over on Rumble. We are live over on Rumble too. Go Start. I used to work in Chula Vista at a car rental in a hotel. Rich, peaceful people there. One cobblestone road in and out. Yeah. As long as the rich people are the only ones there, they won't be bothered. And literally, that's, this is also a financial divide. What's up, Monarch? Monarch is hanging out over on Rumble as well. So we've got people watching over on Rumble. We got a bunch of people watching over on Substack. Unfortunately, I can't put the Substack chats up. Hello, good to see you over on Indie Media today. Again, this is Indie News Now Live. Appreciate everybody checking this out. This is the first episode of the new version of this show. Before I continue, I do want to ask you to support independent media if you're able to and a means. The ways to do that are the same as always. Cash App, $, Indie News Network. That goes right to my phone. $, Indie News Network. co-fi.com/Indie News Network. We got paypal.me/Indie News Network. Do that as friends and family. All right. Then we've got, again, at the Indie News Now website that we are live at right now, there is a tab to keep the news free, and you can donate via Stripe. And then we've got over at Substack, INNnewsletter.com, where we publish weekly update and more, and where we are live now at IndieMediaToday.com. And again, good to see everybody over there. Thank you so much, really, for supporting independent media and for hanging out. Okay. A recurring theme, of course, on How Do We Miss That, and will be also on this show, is fuck Israel. Because we say that every week, and unfortunately, they continue to violate their own ceasefire. They are murdering Palestinians daily still. They are stealing the land in Gaza. The last we had talked about 2 weeks ago, the Yellow Line had taken over more than 50% of the territory from Gaza and cut that territory off completely and would murder any Palestinian that entered into that area. So they're not free by any stretch of the imagination, and they're not stopping the ceasefire. More than 100 Palestinians have been killed since the quote-unquote ceasefire. So we're going to cover some of the stuff that Israel's been up to and some of their war crimes this week, because we do that every week. We're going to continue to. Gaza officials warn that thousands remain trapped under the rubble and say that aid flow is critically insufficient. And we covered this 2 weeks ago, and it continues that Israel is still continuing to not allow enough aid in, though they will scream that they are allowing all the trucks that are there. We know that's not true. We've seen the trucks lined up. All right. Only 4,400 aid trucks have been allowed into Gaza out of the 15,600 that were supposed to have entered. Now, the thing is that neither side signed this ceasefire agreement, so I don't know whose ceasefire agreement they're supposed to be following, because neither side technically agreed to it. But that is just one collapsed building. Good luck finding people under there without heavy equipment. The bodies of over 10,000 Palestinians remain trapped under the rubble of buildings destroyed by Israel. Okay. In a statement on November 6th, that is the Gaza's National Committee for Missing Persons. It's disgusting that they even have to have one of those, but they do. Quote, the humanitarian situation in Gaza requires urgent intervention to end the suffering of thousands of families waiting to know the fate of their children. Calling for the urgent entry of specialized international rescue teams and heavy equipment to help recover the bodies of trapped and missing Palestinians. The problem is that in order to get there, they have to go through Israeli territory, and Israel, of course, is not going to allow that, because fuck Israel. Israel's continued prevention of crucial equipment from entering Gaza is a clear violation of international humanitarian law, it added, demanding urgent action from the international community to save as many lives as possible and preserve human dignity. Again, not Israel's intent at all. Meanwhile, they continue to block the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza in complete violation of the ceasefire agreement, which went into effect last month. A reminder, Israel did not agree to this ceasefire agreement. It was imposed upon them and Hamas. The Gaza Petroleum and Gas Authority says, we confirm that the Zionist side has been preventing entry of cooking gas trucks for the third consecutive day. From November 3rd to November 5th, not a single gas truck has entered the strip. In previous days, only 2 or 3 trucks were allowed in daily, a situation that warns of a worsening crisis and the emergence of major social and health problems. We also note that the Zionist side has been sending back gas trucks every day without filling them, even after they arrive at the crossing, clear evidence of its deliberate attempt to worsen the suffering of Gaza's residents, despite the ceasefire that was imposed upon them. Furthermore, the Zionist side has adopted a new procedure, instructing trucks to head to the crossing only to turn them back empty as part of its ongoing effort to humiliate and subdue the steadfast Palestinian people in Gaza. So they send an empty truck in there and then turn them back. We all call on concerned parties and monitors of the ceasefire agreement to compel the Israeli side to implement the humanitarian protocol stipulating the entry of fuel and gas, and to intervene urgently to curb this deliberate and worsening gas crisis. Starvation crisis, it ain't just gas. Now, what we said, and we've been calling this for a month, and Israel is basically saying that they're using this as an excuse why they're not ceasing fire. Well, they haven't actually returned all the hostages, the dead ones. They can't return dead bodies that are buried under rubble and equipment without the heavy equipment to actually dig the bodies out. And of course, Israel knows this. So here's a couple of receipts. We go back to 4 weeks ago. Palestinians cease and Israel fires. Fuck Israel. Fuck Israel.
Yep.
From the mouth of Rifat. So that was the Council of State. And then we've got, what's next? Mondo Weiss. Here's another one. The Israeli media is already reporting on a secret clause in the Gaza ceasefire deal that no one is talking about. And what do? They do it in Hebrew. This is like they're communicating amongst themselves, and then they homogenize it for the English, for the Westerners. It's disgraceful.
Right.
So Hebrew language Israeli media reports that there is a secret clause buried in the Gaza ceasefire agreement that would allow Israel to resume the war. You mean the massacre. Again, it's not a war when the other side isn't fighting back. Palestinians worry that this is pretext Netanyahu needs to get out of completing the deal. It's exactly what happened. And it's the same. That was on October 10th. That was written by Mondo Weiss. A week later, we covered a very similar thing where they accused Hamas of violating the deal by not returning slain hostages fast enough. Also, what we predicted and what Mondo Weiss predicted last week, which was how Israel was going to claim that Hamas was the violator of the ceasefire, which was that the 24 slain hostages still left behind, they haven't been able to deliver them quickly enough because they're buried under rubble. Okay, the scenario Israel had long prepared for has come to pass. Hamas violated the agreement from the very start, announcing the return of only 4 deceased hostages out of the 28 it holds in the Gaza Strip. So this is the justification and the excuse that they're using for continuing to attack and murder Palestinians. Only 28%, though, of the required number of aid trucks have entered the Gaza Strip since the U.S. peace plan was announced, right? According to Gaza's government media office. The office, and again, this is from the Cradle. By the way, I'm not a big fan of the Cradle. I don't even know why, but I know that a lot of people have criticized them. Once in a while, they'll put out an article like this. I really haven't seen this anywhere else, which is why I went to the Cradle. Again, the Gaza office said in a statement on Thursday that Israel is carrying out its policy of strangulation. According to the statement, again, only 53 trucks have been allowed into Gaza, which is less than a third of the 15,600 that were supposed to enter as part of the agreement. The media office went on to say that these limited quantities do not meet the minimum needs, and the Strip urgently needs a regular flow of no less than 600 trucks a day, as stipulated in the deal. That also includes tents, medical supplies, and food. On the other hand, the occupation allows the entry of larger quantities of nutritionally worthless goods, such as soft drinks, chocolate, processed meals, and chips, which reached the markets at prices more than 15 times their real value due to the occupation's control over supply chains. This confirms the occupation's reliance on policy of engineering starvation, controlling food security, and directly targeting civilian lives. Of course, they're also providing food that doesn't really have nutrients. Like it said, nutritionally worthless, that you give to starving people that you have not allowed aid in for 2 years. What do you think they're going to do? The lack of specialized equipment entering Gaza has made it nearly impossible for authorities to continue the search for the thousands of victims of Israel's genocide who remain trapped under destroyed infrastructure. Israel has not stopped violating the ceasefire agreement. Using alleged Hamas violations as a pretext, Israel has killed up to now over 150 Palestinians since the ceasefire was imposed last month. An Israeli soldier was killed in Rafah on October 28th. Israel responded by killing over 100 people in less than 12 hours. Earlier that month, a soldier was killed in Rafah, prompting violent strikes that killed dozens of civilians and assassinated several top Hamas leaders. Hamas's military wing, the Qassam Brigades, released a statement confirming that it had lost contact with its fighters in Rafah, which was destroyed and occupied by Israeli troops during the massacre, not a war, massacre. And allegedly, they had started to fill in tunnels with cement that they had allegedly known Hamas fighters to be housed in. Around 200 Palestinian resistance fighters remain trapped in underground tunnels in the southernmost city. Attacks against Israeli soldiers in the area may have been carried out by these isolated fighters who are unable to retreat to Hamas-controlled zones. They've got them boxed in. Israel is, quote, close to killing, unquote, the 200 trapped fighters. The devil, Bezalel Smotrich, said earlier this week, after Tel Aviv was said to have rejected granting safe passage to the resistance operatives. So wait, you're not going to let them go safely. Of course, they're not allowed to shoot their way out. So their only option is to die in the tunnel now? According to reports, the U.S. is trying to convince Israel to allow the fighters to hand over their weapons to a third party and surrender in exchange for amnesty, so that Israel can kill them afterwards, I guess? Some of the Hamas militants in the Rafah tunnels are murderers. They cannot be granted amnesty. They can either be killed or surrender and be detained by the IDF, an Israeli official, a murdering war criminal, told Axios. A U.S. official, also a war criminal, told the outlet that Israel needs to grow up and not allow a tactical issue such as this to undermine the Gaza agreement. Again, that Israel never agreed to. Don't forget, they're allowed to violate all of this because they can claim they never signed off on it in the first place. So, fuck Israel. But remember that they're not just attacking Palestinians, they're attacking the sovereign nation of Lebanon. Under the guise of, well, they funded Hamas, so we can attack them because Hezbollah, even though they've taken out all of Hezbollah's leadership, and they've occupied half of southern fucking Lebanon with permanent troops, nobody says a fucking word. Nobody in the international community has a word to say. Jason Ditz over at Anti-War. Israel massively escalates strikes on Lebanon as Hezbollah threatens retaliation. The new Hezbollah, because again, their leadership was taken out by Israel. So let's look at this. Israel's long-threatened escalation of their attacks on Lebanon seems to have begun in earnest on Thursday, with massive numbers of strikes reported against several towns and villages in the country's south. Did they attack Israel? Remind me. Because that would mean that Israel is attacking a sovereign country unprovoked. Again. And yet not being held to account. the IDF issued evacuation warnings, how kind of them, for at least 5 sites in southern Lebanon, and is claiming, as they so often do, that everything they're attacking is Hezbollah infrastructure. Early indications are that a substantial number of civilian casualties have occurred. What a surprise. The Gazification of Lebanon. The most recent toll has 1 confirmed killed and 9 wounded, though those tolls are expected to rise. This comes amid an Israeli Security Cabinet meeting at which the Northern Command will reportedly present various options for the direction and scale of a military escalation in Lebanon, in spite of a ceasefire nominally having been in place for the past year. Right? And there's one of the photos from the airstrike on Tair Deba, according to Reuters Connect. Israel has violated the ceasefire thousands of times since then, killing hundreds of people, including over 100 confirmed to be civilians. Hezbollah, again, has not attacked Israel, has not fired a single rocket during that period, though that may be about to change. Hezbollah issued a report early on the latest attacks, stating their position that they retain a legitimate right to self-defense. Because when a people are occupied, remember, thank you, Colin Radish Cutter, resistance is justified. They didn't affirm that they would strike back after these latest Israeli attacks, just that they have the right to. The Lebanese government has been seeking talks with Israel to try to calm tensions, though Israel has rejected the idea. Have you ever heard of appeasing a bully working? Ever? No, you kick the bully in the fucking nuts. That's one thing they and Hezbollah seem to agree on, as Hezbollah said they don't believe direct talks with Israel are in the national interest. Well, that's good. Israel has yet to announce its plans beyond further attacking Lebanon, Greater Israel Project, though recently they've suggested no place in the country would be immune to strikes because they think they own all of it. 3,000 years, right? Fucking disgusting pigs. Israeli officials, disgusting war criminals, are also being quoted as saying that the current attacks are being carried out in coordination with the United States, which again further makes everyone who signs off on this and sends weapons to Israel complicit war criminals who should be prosecuted. U.S. officials, of course, have yet to comment on this, but it's largely in keeping with U.S. envoy Tom Barrack's position, which is that Lebanon is a failed state and that the U.S. would support their ally, Israel, in the event of a new war. Don't you need to be attacked to have a war? Again, you're attacking a neighbor that did not attack you. Fuck Israel. But let's continue, because I've got more fuck Israel. This one's unbelievable. Again, a site I'm not really thrilled with, Middle East Monitor. Israel-Palestine News likes to cite them occasionally. This one's unbelievable. Ex-Mossad chief, behind the ICJ blackmail campaign, brags that Israel has installed a global sabotage network. What?
He is a sick puppy.
Yes. All right. This guy, Yossi Cohen, former director of the Mossad. In a shocking admission, former Mossad director Yossi Cohen has openly boasted that Israel has deployed a global sabotage and espionage network which uses booby-trapped and spy-manipulated equipment, like the pagers, that the terrorist attack that was carried out in Lebanon. The method, denounced as terrorism by ex-CIA chief Leon Panetta, not one of our friends at all, an absolute fucking monster himself, was used to target Hezbollah, and now, according to Cohen, is embedded in all the countries you can imagine, including ours. In a video that's now circulating on social media, Cohen is seen speaking on the Brink podcast hosted by Jake Wallace-Simons, editor of the Jewish Chronicle. The former Mossad director, who led a blackmail campaign against ICJ judges admits that, detailed the covert program that Israel has planted across the globe. He claimed personal credit for inventing the pager method during his tenure at Mossad's Special Operations Division between 2002 and 2004. So he also should be in prison. Thanks for admitting that. You know how many treated equipment we have in these countries? Not only booby-trapped, but spy-manipulated? In all countries, you can imagine. Germany, too, by the way. We know that they spied on Merkel, that they're spying on Scholz, that they're spying on the current chancellor as well. Okay, Cohen told Simons, describing what appears to be a far-reaching system of compromised commercial hardware used to gather intelligence or in some cases cause physical harm. It's not just hardware, it's toku, it's the spyware, most importantly. It's the spyware that they install, the zero-day attacks that don't even require a keystroke in order to embed themselves on your machine. The technique, he said, originated with the weaponization of communications equipment used by Hezbollah fighters, specifically pagers rigged to function as remote surveillance tools or explosive devices. IEDs. Quote, if adversaries are purchasing equipment, Israel should intervene by embedding itself into their supply chain and exploiting it, he explained, adding that the concept was refined and scaled globally after being tested during the 2006 Second Lebanon massacre. Not war, but massacre. The former intelligence chief further admitted that Israel's sabotage apparatus had not been fully applied to Gaza, calling this a critical shortfall in the lead up to the Hamas-led offensive on October 7th. Not Gaza, not enough, he said, arguing that Mossad had repeatedly warned of this vulnerability only to be ignored by Shin Bet and the IDF, who, remember, they pulled their soldiers off the detail that morning. They allowed it to happen. We've shown that multiple times, and that was from the IDF's own admission. While Cohen's remarks appear to confirm long-standing suspicions by government and cybersecurity analysts that Israeli firms and agencies have used tech as a Trojan horse, the interview also raises troubling questions about accountability, legality, and the potential scale of the operations. I would hope so. Critics have long warned that Israeli surveillance and weapons technology, which is often marketed through private firms with close ties to Mossad and Unit 8200, we talked about Apple and Unit 8200 recently, poses a threat to international security. And just how many former Unit 8200 people work at Apple now? You think that that's not what he's talking about? That every iPhone now can be hacked? Cohen's boast now appears to offer direct confrontation that such concerns are well founded. Again, last month, Netanyahu himself, in front of that 250 Congress people, claimed that anyone with a cell phone owns a piece of Israel. That's what he meant. His remarks were widely viewed as an admission about Israel's global sabotage and spy network. They were also a warning to everyone. Don't fuck with us, because if you got a phone in your pocket, we can make it explode. That was the warning. Fuck Israel for that too. But I ain't done. I got another one from Left Voice, Indie Media Award honoree, class of 2022, top outlet. This is an important one because this also involves another Indie Media Award honoree, Robert Inlakesh. YouTube has removed over 700 videos documenting Israeli war crimes. What a shock. Removed content included harrowing testimonies and key investigations into war crimes committed by the genocidal state. This censorship is a direct consequence of U.S. State Department policy. Thanks, Marco Rubio, you fucking piece of shit narco. YouTube has closed the accounts of 3 of the main Palestinian human rights organizations and removed more than 700 videos of Israeli atrocities and war crimes committed in Gaza and the West Bank. The deleted content from Al-Haq, the Al-Mizan Center, and the Palestinian Center for Human Rights included, among other things, harrowing testimonies from mothers who survived the genocide, investigations into the murder of journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, and visual evidence of the systematic destruction of Palestinian homes under occupation. Material that constitutes key evidence of war crimes. It's a war crime to delete the war crime exposure, by the way. Now YouTube and Google are complicit. The company, which is now owned by Google, it's actually owned by Alphabet, acknowledged that this decision was a consequence of the sanctions imposed by the U.S. State Department on organizations that cooperated with the ICC in cases against Israeli officials. This is insane. The sanctions and censorship intensified after the ICC issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant, prompting an open campaign by the U.S. government to protect Israel and block any accountability. It was also revealed that YouTube coordinated with Israeli tech workers to systematically remove all content critical of Israel. Thankfully, they haven't gotten to our shows yet. The affected organizations and human rights leaders denounced the incident as a blow to freedom of expression and the fight for justice. That's a minimum. Why you're using YouTube as your main source for hosting that evidence is beyond me. But a spokesperson for the Palestinian human rights organization Al-Haq told the CIA-run Intercept, quote, YouTube's removal of a human rights organization's platform carried out without prior warning, they never warn you, represents a serious failure of principle and an alarming setback for human rights and freedom of expression. The U.S. sanctions are being used to cripple accountability work on Palestine and silence Palestinian voices and victims, quote unquote. Yes, because Zionists run YouTube. Naturally. Meanwhile, on other online platforms like MailChimp, they followed suit too, closing key accounts that reported on Palestinian issues. These episodes of cooperation and capitulation are not isolated, however. They're part of a strategy of active complicity between big tech, Google, Meta, Amazon, and imperialist powers, which not only censor the truth, but also provide the infrastructure and technology to sustain the Israeli machinery of occupation and extermination. Notice that they didn't mention Microsoft there, which is interesting, because Microsoft just announced that they would be cutting back some of their work with the Israeli government. But I guarantee you it ain't going to be much. This is all yet another example of how imperialist capitalism puts its economic and political interests above the truth and above the lives of oppressed peoples. The struggle for Palestine is also the struggle to break the information blockade and censorship that legitimizes the genocide. This article was published in Spanish on La Izquierda Diario on Friday, November 7th, translated and adapted for Left Voice by the great James Dennis Hoff. Thank you very much, James. Thank you, Left Voice. Robert Inlakesh also said that he's had video evidence of his that he's posted removed as well. So fuck Israel. All right. And then I've got a little every time, right? Let's keep in mind and let's remember that continue without supporting us. Screw you guys at the New York Post. Fuck Rupert Murdoch. But this is another one of those situations where I have to bring a corporate media thing, somewhat corporate media. You know, the morning after Zohran Mamdani was elected new mayor, outside Yeshiva, Magen David Yeshiva University in Brooklyn, a swastika was spray painted on the wall. And of course, every Zionist in the world screeched, anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism, it's got to be the Muslims. Notice, though, that there's a camera literally right fucking there, okay? Well, two guesses what happened, guys. New video shows hateful bike riding vandal who scrawled swastikas on the Magen David Yeshiva, and you'll be shocked to know that he's wearing a fedora, they called it. And I'm not going to play the music because fuck the New York Post. There's the guy on the bike right there. Okay, that fedora looks awfully familiar. It looks a lot like the hats that the Lubavitcher Chabad wear. So, is it possible that they might have done it themselves? Every fucking time we see it, it's always a Zionist trying to drum up sympathy. Every fucking time. All right, I'm going to let the video continue. Here it is. He stops at the thing. He sprays. And he moves on. Didn't even bother to take off his hat. Oh, there's another one. Look at that. In the middle of the night, of course. That's right, Topher. It was either that or it's an Amish dude. Exactly. Here's more official Shomrim Flatbush Safety Patrol showing the man in a fedora. That looks a lot like the wide-brimmed hats that the Orthodox wear. And it looks like the guy even might have a long black beard. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, those racist Amish. Seriously, Jason. Every time, right? Unbelievable. And then again, not so unbelievable at all. And here he is coming back after he does the vandalism. And he's going home. Maybe he's got a mask on to cover his face. If I were spray painting a swastika as a Zionist, I would probably have a mask on myself. And fuck the New York Post, by the way. All right. Don't subscribe to them. They're garbage. But, and what's funny is they won't even admit that it's likely a Zionist. Disturbing surveillance, right? This is the way they describe it. Captured the mysterious bike riding vandal who painted swastikas. The footage shows a single figure wearing a wide-brimmed hat pedal up to the school around 6:30 in the morning, stopping briefly and scrawling the hateful graffiti before riding off. Every time. First of all, it's hate graffiti. I don't care if it was on a mailbox or a light pole. We would look into that too. But here you have a predominantly Jewish neighborhood, a Jewish school with a massive attendance. And that certainly looked like a Muslim that was riding that bike, didn't it? Because you know that's the narrative that they would like to believe, that it was a Palestinian that did that. Pennsylvania is number one in Amish population in the world. That is true. Ohio is number 2, descendant Bloom. But it's certainly not Flatbush, Brooklyn. But you know where a lot of, you know who lives in Flatbush, Brooklyn? A lot of them? Orthodox Jews that wear wide-brimmed black hats. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Fuck Israel. All right. I need to breathe after that. A lot of riled up. I had missed 2 weeks, so the secret Nazi sect of Zionists, they're not so secret, though. That's the thing, Fred. They're proud of what they do. They're not trying to hide it anymore because there literally has been no repercussions for anything that they have done. So why would they not admit it other than to, at some point, not be prosecuted? But I don't know when that's going to be. All right. So before we continue, again, I'm going to ask you to, if you're able to, support the media you want to see and support shows like this. The best ways to do that are by Cash App. And thank you to whoever did donate on the Cash App earlier tonight. I did see one come through. Christopher Anthony, thank you. $50. Appreciate that. Kate, Kameshwari Kate, $15. Thank you so much. This is great. $sign Indie News Network on Cash App. co-fi.com/Indie News Network, and that's supposed to pop a thing up. I got to fix that. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. Then we've got IndieNewsNow.com, again, the name of the show, but also the website where we are live and also where you can support the media you want to see. So that if all these platforms like YouTube ever decide to shut us down, guess what? We're still going to be able to go live directly to IndieNewsNow.com. So even if all the other 8 platforms decide to kick us off, which likelihood they wouldn't, but I want to make sure that they can't shut us down no matter what. Then, of course, over at Substack, we're live at Indie Media Today. Greetings to everyone over there. And at INNnewsletter.com, sign up to get the weekly update and other INN podcasts like INN One-on-One and American Tradition with Jesse Jett and INN News, which are all housed over at INNnewsletter.com. Okay. I have got the lightning round. I still do a lightning round. I went to another different independent source that I normally don't go to in this one. An interesting situation where I found, Reason Magazine is Cato Institute, libertarian chud, capitalist. Robbie Suave, I believe his parents owned or founded, or they're involved somehow with that. The guy from The Hill Rising. But once in a while, they do stuff on civil liberties law that I think is interesting. And this was a crazy story. Again, I didn't hear anyone else report on this. And once in a while, they do pull a story from an angle that I don't really see anyone else telling it. So in this case, because it kind of fits in with ICE and police abuse and all the other shit that we've been talking about, I thought this one made sense to bring for the lightning round. We're not going to read the whole story, but I'm going to link it because it is somewhat long. What the title says is that he died of thirst in solitary confinement, and now his family is suing for answers. All right. Lamont Mealy was found dead in a Maryland prison cell. Officials called it natural causes, but his family's lawsuit says that guards intentionally shut off his water. Again, could you imagine dying of thirst in the United fucking States? That's murder. That is straight fucking murder. And nothing is going to happen to the people that did it because they're calling it natural cause. How the hell is dying of thirst a natural cause? They're suing the state. So please read this one over at Reason Magazine, written by Jacob Schwartz. One of the other articles that I brought, is at Open Secrets. They have been kind of captured a little bit. They used to be a lot better. Once in a while, they do put out a really good article. This one is just confirmation of everything we've been talking about, which is that data centers, follow the money, are now fueling the lobbying industry, not just the growth of AI. So they took the template from the crypto industry and realized that if there's a lot of money pouring into your sector, your business, your industry, and government has not regulated it yet and still needs to, it may behoove you to buy off those government lawmakers, and they work relatively cheap. You don't really need to pay a lot as a business or as an industry in the grand scheme to get billions in legislation that works in your favor. So, again, from the farmlands of Northern Virginia to the industrial parks of New Jersey, very close to home with Angel and I, massive new data centers are popping up across the country to power America's artificial intelligence revolution, the one that nobody asked for. The energy needed to power these data centers is driving national energy usage to record levels, and those costs are falling on American households as soaring electricity consumption has translated into higher home utility bills, as well as health and environmental risks. Why the companies that are using the AI and using these resources aren't the ones that are having to spend the money to use the power, I don't understand. How is it being transferred to all of us? Well, every time we do a ChatGPT search, that uses X amount of water. And ChatGPT, OpenAI isn't paying that. It's getting drained on the community. Okay, but here we've got, with the advent of modern cloud computing and AI, The U.S. energy system is undergoing changes not seen since post-World War II electrification. We need a new grid. Modern data centers have facilitated the global explosion of AI, housing massive networks of servers and cooling systems that keep everything from entertainment, communication, to business operations running daily. Running these cloud centers has a cost. Yes. All right. The electric manufacturing and equipment sector, including firms like Microsoft and Oracle, has poured more than $226 billion into lobbying activity this year. That's a lot of fucking money. That's more money than the crypto industry used to buy off Trump. All right, the Fair Shake PAC spent, I believe, is about $117 million on the 2024 election. Additionally, 53% of lobbyists for the electric manufacturing sector have gone through the revolving door, meaning that they're former government officials and employees who've taken jobs with lobbying firms and private sector organizations that in some cases they used to oversee. Just dirty as all dirty can get. All right. The Data Center Coalition spent $123,000 on lobbying during the first quarter, $125,000 in the second quarter, and then more than doubled those numbers, spending $360,000 in the third quarter. $1 million of lobbying, not even. All right. To them, that's a drop in the bucket. But it gets the congressperson of their choice elected, and it buys them favor with all of the lawmakers on both sides that need that funding. So check out that Open Secrets article. Finally, I brought another Indie Media Award honoree, Dave DeCamp from Anti-War. Don't forget about Venezuela. All right, because I think a lot of people are still sleeping on Venezuela. We've been bombing boats. Congress, this is the crazy thing. And I'm like, did Congress just literally abdicate war powers? Congress, the Senate, votes down a resolution to block Trump from starting a war with Venezuela? Wait, so are they then giving him permission? Well, not exactly. They're just not blocking him. The Senate Thursday rejected a resolution to stop Trump from launching an attack on Venezuela without authorization from Congress. Last I checked, that was the fucking law. I mean, technically, he can launch something, go to them, and then within 48 hours get their permission or whatever it is after the fact. But really, that shouldn't even be happening. The resolution, led by Senators Tim Kaine, Rand Paul, and Adam Schiff, so it's bipartisan, failed to pass the chamber by a vote of 49 to 51, with just two Republicans, all right, Rand Paul and Lisa Murkowski, supporting the bill. And this is, again, the Republican version of the parliamentarian, where they allow one or two of their rank to break ranks, even though they know it's not going to make a difference in the long run. They let them throw them one, you know. We see the squad do this often, where they don't necessarily all vote together. Ahead of the vote, Trump administration officials were telling lawmakers that they currently didn't have plans to bomb Venezuela, part of a strategy to discourage Republicans from stopping the war powers resolution. According to CNN, during the briefings, Trump officials still didn't rule out potential future military action. So we don't necessarily have plans right now, but we might in the future, and we might like that ability, and we certainly don't want you to vote our ability to do that and take that away, sirs. What? The Trump officials also said that they currently lacked a legal justification to launch strikes on land in Venezuela. But a U.S. official told CNN that the admin is seeking one from the Justice Department and doesn't plan to ask Congress for authorization. Again, a clear violation of the Constitution, which requires congressional approval for the executive to launch a war. He doesn't give a fuck, and nobody's going to stop him. Trump has sent mixed messages on the potential for a war with Venezuela. You mean an unprovoked attack on Venezuela? And according to the Wall Street Journal, he's expressed reservations over the idea of launching strikes on the country. He should. But the massive U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean continues as a U.S. aircraft carrier and its strike group are on their way to the region. We reported on that 2 weeks ago. And the administration has continued its illegal bombing campaign against alleged drug-running boats without any evidence presented whatsoever. The New York Times reported Tuesday that Trump is considering potential major escalations that could lead to a full-blown war with Venezuela. They include bombing military targets inside the country, sending special ops forces to kill or capture Maduro, or sending a much larger force to capture airfields and oil infrastructure. Right? That's right, Topher. It's an unprovoked attack on fucking fishermen. That's absolutely correct. With no evidence, no receipts other than trust us, bro. So, fuck the Trump administration for that. As well as for the data center stuff that they're pushing, because they're certainly being bought off for that. And for this police abuse, which is happening under his watch, too. So this is more horrifying domestic shit that's happening and international stuff that's happening thanks to Trump. And not just Trump, but Trump, remember, is a symptom. He's not the one running all of this. You've got Bannon, you've got the donor class, you've got the Adelsons that are making sure everything runs in Israel and Iran and Lebanon and all the other stuff. This is a global network, okay? C.J. Hopkins often referred to it as global cap because it's global capitalism. It's all the forces working together. Dissent in Bloom. Even if they had evidence, extrajudicial killings are bullshit. They can't be judge, jury, and executioner. It's not like they couldn't arrest them. And the ones that they didn't kill, that they did arrest, they let them go without charges. Sorry, we blew up your boat, bro. Looks like you're not really guilty. You're free to go. Yeah, thanks. What? Yeah. So we're going to get to the GoFundMes in a second. But before we do, I would, again, implore you one more time to support independent media. And the way to do so is to join that wall of fame. Cash App, $ Indie News Network. We got a new member joining tonight. O-Fee.com/Indie News Network. You got PayPal.me/Indie News Network. We're live over at IndieNewsNow.com. It's the name of the show, Indie News Now Live. IndieMediaToday.com. We're also live over there on Substack. Thank you so much for seeing. Good to see you there. And at INNNewsletter.com. All right. And that is right, Topher. The last we checked, that death penalty is not the punishment for drug trafficking, alleged drug trafficking. Again, they haven't even been caught. All right. They've just been suspected. No evidence has been presented. Dabby Dabs, how are you? Desert Mantis, Little Narco said that they were fishing without a license. So that's a reason to blow them out of the fucking water, right? And yes, Obama did extrajudicial killings to KYE. He set up everything that Trump is doing, and he did it with legitimacy on top of it. Good to see Jason Nights on the Storm. Go check that show out for sure. But again, I wanted to get to really quickly. Oh, right. There was one other thing. The church thing. Holy crap. I saw this tweet the other day and I started looking into it. There's a lady on TikTok calling churches saying she needs help buying formula for her baby just to see if they'll actually help their communities. She's called at this point. She had called more than 20 places. And so far, only a mosque and a tiny little church in Appalachia had offered to help. So I actually brought a little bit of this story. I continued into the comments, and somebody actually linked the video because nobody had seemed to link it back to the source. We'll play that in a second. All right. And then there are a couple of her own TikToks. So I did go to this woman's TikTok, Nicolette, right? So here's her actually calling one of the churches.
Please press 1 for the church office. Press 2 for the daycare. Thank you.
They're like a minute or two. It's got the sound of a crying baby.
This is Mandy.
Hi. I was calling to see if y'all by chance had any like baby formula.
We do not. We don't keep anything like that on hand. You might could call DHR. Sometimes they have access to stuff like that they might could give you.
Yeah, I already tried there.
They don't have any either?
No.
Yeah,
I've tried like everywhere. Everybody's telling me to call churches for help.
Are y'all on WIC?
Yeah, I've already tried to get on WIC and I can't get approved, so I'm just trying to see if there's any way like you all could just supply like a small can of baby formula.
Yeah, we don't have the means for that.
So I'm calling your church to test to see if they feed a starving baby. And right now I'm calling West End Baptist Church.
We don't have the means for that. So that was 9 yeses and 32 no's. All right. So now this happened afterwards. Let's refresh this and I'll unmute it because the one church that did say yes.
I ran across this post and this is the grandpa that was like, "Oh, what flavor do you need?" So I don't know. Like, I did not expect this social experiment to go viral at all. I literally had 300 followers, y'all. Like, I did not expect this at all. And neither did the people that said yes. Like, they did not know all of this was going to happen. And they didn't know that they were going to go viral either. And they were going to get all this attention either. So, like, it's crazy for me. I can't imagine how crazy it is for them, you know, like, and life-changing it is for them. Like, I'm just so happy for everybody that said yes and all the blessings that they're getting and all the love and support that they're getting because they deserve it. And I just wanted to share that. Okay, so I know it's late, but
that little Appalachian church got $75,000 in donations over a week for saying that they would, without even questioning, would send the baby formula. So it was both a heartwarming story as well as a depressing story. And somebody else had said that they were up to over 35. There were over 40 of them now. All right. Right. So she found the true teaching of Quran and Islam. Some of the comments are just horrifying. Some of them are great. I'm not going to go through those, but I just thought it was a really interesting story of this woman trying to see, especially with everything shut down right now, how much our church is actually helping someone that calls desperate and in need of help right now. So that was something to see. All right. Real quick. Now I want to get to the GoFundMes. Let me lower this back down. So, because I pumped it up so you guys could hear it better. Hopefully you were able to hear that. Okay. And now we've got our GoFundMe. So, first and foremost, we've got Shanda. Shanda is back going through treatments again. I think they're actually talking about doing a show this Sunday night for Beauty and the Boomer. According to the last I had heard from Oz. Yes, Vicky, Reef is okay. Reef's good. Reef's going to be on INN News tomorrow night. But we're changing some stuff up, and the show will now be INN News Live going forward. Not How Do We Miss That? And I'm going to host it. But Shanda, of course, has been going through small cell lung cancer, which has now expanded and spread into her liver and now her femur. And they're trying very hard to keep it from her brain. And that she talked about that in our one-on-one, which is why I'm showing this. And then, of course, also in standing with her in her round 2 in her cancer battle. So wake up every day and bitch slap that cancer till it's gone. And that's what she's doing. We love her for it. And we're here to fight with her. Her last health update was October 7th. I know that she had made a Facebook post recently, and especially that, you know, with SNAP benefits being gone for a couple of days, that she had to pay cash, and that really hurt. So if anyone's able to contribute to the GoFundMe, please do. We'll drop the link to that GoFundMe, of course, over in the chat descriptions everywhere live, and it will be in the description afterwards when we put this up as a clip. I also want to mention Cowboy Kitty, who may or may not be in the audience right now, Anthony Malecki. He messaged me the other day to let me know that they had proceeded with her deportation hearings. We're not sure exactly where they're at the moment. I didn't want to share his DM because I hadn't had that cleared, but things are continuing to move. He gave her some money out of the GoFundMe that of the $1,750 that was raised. I think he said he gave her his daughter $500 so that she could live, but that they are still proceeding with deportation and sending her back to Ukraine and staying in touch with her so that we don't lose touch is going to be a challenge, and we need to all do that. So I'm going to drop the link for Natalia's GoFundMe as well. So if anyone really is able to support, it's much needed and much appreciated. Thank you. I also finally, of course, wanted to mention the Justice for Aspen live stream. It was heartwarming. It was at times sad, scary, and a little depressing because of the subject matter and knowing what's in front of us.
Much needed.
But it's also, again, heartwarming knowing that this community has stepped up to help so much. And Jesse, of course, played a killer fundraiser. By the way, all of the songs, I've timestamped them so that you can now go to the specific pieces and listen to them directly if you want to know what they were. If he covered something, I even put who he was covering so that we've got a much more complete description of the live stream. And then the replay. We did get the most amount of views that we've had on any live stream in the last couple of months. So thank you to everyone for that, for sharing it, for watching it, for letting everybody know that we need help and that Aspen needs our help. And we love you, Aspen. We're going to continue to raise awareness. We're going to continue to beat the drum because we know that this fight is far from over. All right. They raised enough to be able to hire a lawyer to have discovery and move the step to the next process. But there is a long, long way to go in this process. So anything that anybody can contribute to help Aspen in her fight to stay out of decades of prison and lose most of her adulthood for being in the wrong car with someone who was trafficking drugs at a fair. Please, if you can contribute, every $5 even helps. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you to Kate Mack and Charlie Mack. And I see everyone else. By the way, Charlie Mack, our brother Charlie Mack, got his account suspended from Twitter for that. He's still not able to tweet. And we actually did a tweet storm led by Paula Iacella today. Hashtag reinstate Charlie Mack 1912. So if you're over on Twitter, hashtag reinstate Charlie Mack 1912. Please tweet with that. And of course, I also wanted to, Indie News Now, we started the show with this website. We're going to end the show with this website because this is the website that all of the articles that we're pulling from has come from. All right. We link directly to the source. We don't try to steal their clicks. We want to amplify them and drive people to their website to support them because we believe in independent media here. Okay, you're going to find Monica Perez and Left Voice, who we read a couple articles tonight from Indie Media Award honorees. And there's JB Font. He went live earlier today, and his site's here. Fight Back News and Antiwar.com. We saw them Indie Media Award honoree. All right, Consortium News, another Indie Media Award honoree. Are you hearing a theme here? Are we detecting something? The best of the best of the best are here. And oh yeah, we're here too. INN and Descent in Bloom and our friend Chicho and the Homeless Left, and we amplify independence here. That's what we do. So check out IndieNewsNow.com. There's also a merch store, so you can get merch there. You can get shirts, And why isn't this loading? There we go. Shirts. It's wintertime. It's deep freeze. Beanie. Hey, we've got INN beanies. Go order one, $20, and it'll be at your house within a week, if not sooner. So thank you, everyone. Really, this has been a blast. And that, well, I don't know why that's up. That shouldn't be. That was Indie Media Today. That was the back end. So, yeah, we're gonna do this every Tuesday night now at 10 p.m. Eastern. We're just shifting. So for those who weren't here earlier, like Vicky, and it's in the description, but How Do We Miss That is evolving. You know, I took a look around at the landscape and I said, you know, as a show name, it's been around for 4 years. We never really named the show. It kind of evolved into its own name, but I never actively decided that this is what I want to call it. But because we're using articles from IndieNewsNow, I think it makes a lot of sense to brand IndieNewsNow and link the website into the show name. So it's called IndieNewsNow Live. And I've been wanting to do a show kind of by myself, a news show. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to see how this goes. Again, Thursday nights, you're going to see a mix of shows. You're going to see a combination of either INN one-on-one. You're going to see Indie's Tech Tips, which I'm going to do shows of, and we're going to talk about the tools. We're going to do some more Nobody Wants to Work Anymore, and there might even be one on Thursday with me and Himbo. And, of course, American Tradition, which will be the last Thursday of every month. We've kind of tried to set on that as a schedule. So thank you, everybody, again, for supporting this move. Tell everyone about Indie News Now and about Indie News Now Live. I really think that it might help give us a little bit of a boost because we certainly could use one. The algorithm doesn't love us. Boats, by the way, will be moving to 11 p.m. on Sunday nights. So we are still going to do boats. It's going to happen on Sunday night. And the last Sunday of every month will still be an uncensored boats. But the truth is that I can't continue to stay up as late as I've been staying on Sunday nights, especially. And I've got to start working on my schedule. So spreading this out a little bit better seems to make more sense, at least for me. And we're going to try this and see how it goes. And thank you, everybody, for being on board and supporting that. So I will, again, say to support independent media because we need it more than ever. And we will see you next Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m., check out INN News with Reef and Colin. And we'll see you again real soon. Love you all, fam. No! We just fucking lost the stream!
I think I liked it better being blind when I couldn't read between the lines. And when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say?
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days, and I still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe?